Do we control our own lives, or does someone else control them? Are we the masters of our life, or are we toys in the hands of fate? There are different points of view on this. Today, there is a whole industry aimed at convincing a person that he is the full and rightful master of his own life, that everything depends entirely on him. There are special trainings where people are told everything depends on you, only on you. And all of this works only until something happens in life that does not depend on a person. Then the whole picture collapses. The entire system falls apart like a house of cards. Suddenly, a person realizes that not everything depends on him. For example, he trained, he did sports, he ran every day, he abstained from smoking and other harmful habits. And then suddenly an illness comes, and everything breaks down. A person finds himself on the brink of death. And he says, "How can this be? I was told that everything was in my hands. I did everything I was taught." Something doesn't add up in this theory. There is another theory. They say, no, on the contrary, everything is predetermined. You can't do anything yourself. Whatever is written in your destiny is what will happen. Whatever God decides your lifespan to be, that's how long you'll live. If God gives you health, you'll have it. If not, then you won't. And it seems that nothing is required of a person and nothing depends on him. Both of these viewpoints are wrong. So how is it really? Life is a joint creative project of God and a human being. And when someone says, "You are the master of your life," that is not true. You did not choose when you would be born or where you would be born. At least the first 10, 15, 20 years of your life are determined by what God has given you, not by what you have earned, achieved, or understood. And the same applies to the rest of a person's life. The abilities you have received, the opportunities, both physical, spiritual, and intellectual, are what God has given you. But there is something you can develop in yourself, and that is what depends on you. And that is why I say that this is a joint creative process. In the Gospel, there is a parable of Jesus Christ. He tells about a wealthy man who went away to a far country and summoned his servants. To one he gave 10 talents, to another 5, and to another 1 talent. What are talents? A talent is a unit of weight. Talents were used to weigh silver, and the original meaning of the Greek word talent is exactly that. Today, this word is used only in a figurative sense. Why? Because the modern meaning is rooted in this very parable I'm telling you. So what is this parable about? The wealthy man gave different amounts of these talents, these measures of silver, to 3 people. Then he left, and after a long time he returned. The one who had been given 10 talents came to his master and said, "You gave me 10, I invested them and earned 10 more. Here are 20. The one who had been given 5 brought 10. But the one who had been given 1 talent came and said, "I knew you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter. So, afraid, I hid your talent in the ground. Here it is. You gave me 1, I return 1." And the outcome is clear. The master praised the first and second servants and gave them appropriate authority. But the third, the wicked servant, he said, "Take him and throw him out." I'm retelling the parable in my own words. What does this parable tell us? It tells us that God gives each of us certain talents, and we can understand talents broadly here. They are not only creative abilities, they are everything we have: our physical condition, our spiritual condition, our intellectual abilities, our opportunities. Some are born into a wealthy family, some into a poorer one. Some receive a good education, others a poorer one. In other words, God gives someone 10 talents, someone 5, someone maybe 2. It doesn't matter how much you were given. What matters is how you use these talents, how you manage your abilities. Here we can look even more broadly. We can look, for example, at how creative people used their gifts. Take the writer Dostoevsky. God gave him a literary talent. He used that talent to help people come to God, to help people know themselves, to help them distinguish between good and evil. In fact, he was God's apostle on this earth. His prose is deeply Christian. His novels speak to us about God, about the hidden depths of the human soul, including its sinful depths, and how a person can overcome sin. But he does this not in theological language, but in the language of fiction. We read his novels, we enjoy the captivating plot, but as a side effect, we receive a very strong spiritual and moral impact. This is an example of someone who used his talent in a way that was pleasing to God. But we can name many other writers who received from God even greater literary talent, who had greater mastery, greater refinement of style, yet created nothing significant. Worse still, some use their talents for evil, and their books promote not goodness, but evil, not purity, but corruption, and so on. So much depends on how we manage our lives. So once again, we are not toys in the hands of fate. Much in our lives depends on us, but at the same time, we are not the absolute masters of our lives. How can your life bear real fruit? By cooperating with God, by talking with Him, by seeking to know His will, by striving to carry it out. Let your life be a genuine joint creative project. Make room for God in your life, and He will give you a place in His plan of salvation. Up to now, I have spoken about what elements make up a person's life. But we must not forget something else. We are all part of one great divine creative project. Each of us, besides shaping our own life in the way we hope it will unfold, also contributes something to this divine project. I would like you to share with the other viewers what contribution you make to this creative project, what you are doing to fulfill God's intention for you. Tell us. It will be interesting. Right now, I am preparing a book for publication called A Guide to the Bible, and it has two authors, myself and another person. We wrote this book in co-authorship, and there are different kinds of co-authorship. Sometimes a book has 5 chapters. One author writes 2, the other 3. And sometimes co-authors constantly consult each other. In this case, for example, what I wrote I sent to my co-author. He made some corrections or suggestions. What he wrote he sent to me, and I made my own corrections. I think the book still shows 2 different styles, and perhaps someone will even recognize them. But nevertheless, the book truly has 2 authors. So in an ideal world, our life should be created by us in co-authorship with God. We should constantly invite God to be our co-author, and we should constantly offer Him our cooperation as co-authors. Then we will fulfill the vocation, the design that God has for each of us.